Blessings. I am the Reverend Douglas Taylor, and I welcome you to another episode of Digging Deeper with Reverend Douglas. Each week, I respond to a question that has been posed to me by a member of the congregation or someone who is here watching these episodes online. You can always send me a question at my email, dtaylor@uubinghamton.org. Today, our question is a little bit lighter. It comes from the internet. It was an exercise in which I invited people to ask me, what are my top five whatever? And said I would try to answer as best I could. And some of these were kind of silly, like what are my top five dinosaurs? My top favorite dinosaurs, of course, you start with the Parasaurolophus or Parasaurolophus. You've got the Stegosaurus, Allosaurus. I love the old classic Brontosaurus that became the Apatosaurus, but now is back to being a Brontosaurus. That's an interesting thing. And, the good old classic Iguanodon. I like the Iguanodon. So that was the kind of thing. A lot of the questions that came to me were, what are your top favorite? And it would be a silly question. But every now and then there was a really serious one. Somebody asked, what are your top favorite books, your five favorite books that make you think? Well, and in no particular order, my response is Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. I love science fiction and fantasy books, and because they allow you to do extra while holding on to some things about reality and human nature. Yeah. The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander really opened my eyes to some of the stuff that's going on in our country, nonfiction. Jonathan Sacks has a book called The Dignity of Difference, which I found extremely compelling ethically. The Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. Every time I go back to that book, it gets me thinking. And early on in my young adult intellectual development, I stumbled onto a book called Etica para Amador by Fernando Savater. He's an existentialist ethicist. And he said things like, we are not free to not be free. He got me thinking in some really remarkable ways. That's the book. Another person asked me, what are my top five guiding principles? Kindness, family, resilience, justice, spiritual maturity. I'm not sure those are ranked in order again, but those are my five. Someone asked, what are my top five favorite quotes? This one was a fun question. My top five favorite quotes. I actually went and looked at the sermons that I've done in the past and what are some things that I say a lot or I quote from other people who have said. One of them is by Jalaluddin Rumi. Rumi says, sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment. I take that as a personal challenge because I really like my cleverness. John Muir said, when we try to pick anything out by itself, we find it is hitched to everything else in the universe. Helen Keller said, although the world is very full of suffering, it is also full of the overcoming of it. I love that. Iris Murdoch, I learned this one very early on. She said, we learn to love by loving. And Rana Maria Rilke said, the purpose of life is to be defeated by greater and greater things. And of course, I'm going to cheat by saying a sixth one. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Martin Luther King Jr. How can I not include a sixth quote? I love how these bring me life. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of Digging Deeper with Reverend Douglas. Blessings upon you all.